All right, let's get this going. So, some people are starting to start filing in. We are going to be going over, pick up where we left off last time with, we started on the X and U last time. Or sorry, the X and Y last time, not the X and U. And we are now um one second. We are now going to try to finish up some of the X and U and move on to uh what is or what we're going to do for the Z. Hey Brandon, can you check Twitch real quick? It looks like it's acting up.
No, it's
Oh
looking
no,
good.
there we go.
And I got
We're
audio
good.
on both. Good.
Eat your pizza. All right. So since last time, I have cleaned up a few things. So we made these all subsects now, like their own um, assemblies. So we've got just our standard X gantry, just to catch us up. So standard X gantry, this stuff is what's going to be pretty much just static on this. We made these into rigid joints, so that because none of this is really going to move moving forward. Um, so we have this set up, and then we also have an extruder assembly. And we can kind of start here and look at what changes have been made. Let's take away our LGX. We have cleaned up these bottom plate stacks. So um, one of the biggest things we're going to do is make this bottom plate is going to be customizable. Really, we would like, well, really both middle and bottom plate would be static, like are interchangeable. It'll be This is right now set up for a mosquito pattern, which also accepts our rigid mount Revo setup, which these are M2.5s. Um, get rid of the hot end plate. You see there's recesses here for our M2.5 heads of the bolts. And then an M3 pass through where it does bolt into the top main plate. So, but the big thing is this hot end plate is going to be the thing that you're going to be able to customize. Say you're using a Voron Revo, you'll be able to modify this to make that mounting pattern, which I believe the Revo, the Voron Revo will accept the same thing as like the Thetis hot ends if I am correct. But yeah, so it'll be this bottom plate. If there's a lot of people saying, "Hey, we want this bottom plate," we can get a bunch of them made. But the nice thing is you just take these and then easily bring them into Syncut Sen or something like that. Because none of these two plates are tapped, um, it's going to be very cheap for you to make. There should be no limitations, so that if you want to do if you're making your own hot end or you find some crazy hot end and you want to put it on this thing, you can either print them. And you can definitely start out with printing these things. But long term, if you want to get them made, you're looking at a couple dollars from Sense Cut Send. It'll take 4 days for them to make it, and then it'll get it right over to you. So that's the concept there. If you guys missed that, but yeah. So we also, if you were on the last stream, you noticed we have added the belt clips or the way we're going to retain X and Y belts. So we have this back plate. Let's bring this all back in. We have this back plate, the belt plate right there. So what you would do is you'd have your belts will come in through this back, like in between the extruder and here. They'll come through these holes around, and you'll have them flat this way. So, and then you'll have two M5 bolts here. They'll only be 6 mil long that you'll tighten down. What you'll do is you'll have a long belt and you'll be able to slide these out in each direction and then tighten, clamping your belts in real tight. So you shouldn't really have uh, any problem holding stuff down here. This is going to be steel, so it will be quite tough. 3 mil steel. It's what we're using on the Talos as well. So yeah, you're not going to have really any problems. One thing that is going to change with this so far is if we look at the top of this and we get rid of our LGX, we're going to add a couple ears here on either side with a couple bolt holes so that whatever you're using for your hot end, you'll have plenty space and mounting points for whatever cooling solution you want to add. So we've got the extruder assembly. Let's bring our stuff back in here. Get out of that. So we look at our U plate. The reason why we did them in subsections like that is because we want to be able to move around our head. So we come in here and we look at our subsections here, subcomponents. Moving this head all the way to the ends of the rails. Let's leave that there. If you look here, you have a significant amount of room. Maybe it's better from the top here. You have a significant amount of room for whatever cooling you want on the side of this. So if you want anything too crazy, if you want to put a 50-50 or 50-15 over here, that would even fit. I'm pretty sure. We can double check that. But so let's bring in like a radial fan. If you want to go wild and crazy, I don't even have to rotate this. I am hearing myself somewhere. There is an echo, and nobody told me there was an echo. It's right here. Found it. The worst thing is hearing my own voice. All right, anyways. So if you wanted to put something like a 50-15 in here, you've got the room. Yes, it's going to stick out in the front, but that's one advantage to not having a front crossbar is we don't care what sticks out in the front. So let's get rid of this. But yeah, so you're not going to really be limited on what is it saying? There's nothing on the timeline affected by that. All right. So now that we kind of know what we're dealing with here, we've got to start looking at the front end of this gantry system. So if we take our X system and move it, that should have done that. Oh, that's why. We need to select the little thing. Silly me. So if we take this, move it as far as we can to the front, we now are going to know where our limitations on the front is going to be. So now we're going to be able to say, we're going to go pull back into our assets here and pull up what we're going to be using as a bed. So like we discussed last time, the big thing, what we're going to be, one big advantage of what we're doing here is the fact that we are going to be using a MK52 style bed. What that's going to allow us to do is it's going to make it to where you can use literally any flex plate for a Prusa MK3, MK4, and they're everywhere, right? Everybody makes, if somebody makes a flex plate, they most likely make it for a Prusa. Big thing is we use these beds for our Apollos. So we have a bunch of them still. So we want to make sure that people can use them for this as well. Big thing is we So if this is our max to the front, we need to shuffle this guy back some. 15. Probably wouldn't hurt for this to go off the edge. So, granted, like right now, we don't have the front of our Y done. We're gonna have idlers up here and everything else. So let's move this bed down. It's going to be in the relatively right spot. So we see a lot of space back here, right? We wanna have some space for our hot end to go off the edge of the bed. Not so much in X or in the X directions, but we do want it in Y. Mainly because we want people to be able to have the option of doing stuff like the clicky probes, the nozzle touch offs, the like having a brush, maybe whatever your little heart desires. We want you to be able to have somewhere that you'll be able to place those things. So with that bed placed there, we're off the front of the flex plate here. So we know we're gonna be able to reach there. The extruder assembly, not that. I need to select the right thing. There we go. We move this back. Actually, let's open this back up real quick. Let's move our X gantry, not our X gantry, but our extruder assembly back towards the center so we can kind of get more of an idea. So we are not quite off the front of that bed. Glad I checked that. Let's move this bed back just a wee bit. Five would probably not be a bad idea. Okay. So this is all relative right now. Like right now, we're kind of just placing things out, knowing where we can design the next thing. So take our X assembly. We're going to move it back to where we know we are at the edge of our rail. We still have a little bit of space. Let's see. I think it ended up being 54. Yep. So that will have our nozzle off the back end, at least a little bit. So big thing is we can then still mount a clicky probe somewhere to where the nozzle, we will be off the print area when you would pick something like that up. So yeah, there's kind of the whole idea there. All right. As you can see, we also added in the bolts we need for the idlers, and we actually have the idlers at height now. So all that's set up, and that's set up and aligned with our extruder carriage. Oh, stop turning on me. Okay, let's start looking at this from the front again. Okay. So big things we need to work on today. We need to finish out the front ends of our Y. We need to get 2 idlers set up for the front, and we need to have a place to mount our extrusion. The next big thing from that was once we know where we're mounting our extrusion, we can then figure out what we're going to decide to do on our how I can go Bowden. Why is my chat not coming up? 1 second. My chat's not showing on my thing. Brandon, you hear me? Or are you still eating pizza?
I hear you. You hear me?
Well, yeah. What's this? Now can I go root? No.
You had all the different adapter plates. I posted that a while ago.
Oh yeah, yeah. See, none of my chat was coming up. Let me double check on here as well.
I don't have anyone else chatting.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we're not missing anybody. All right. Well, yeah. So one big thing for going Bowden is we can have a top plate that has a press in for like a standard M4 or a 4mm external Bowden for 1.75. 1 second, my dog. So yeah, you'll be able to go Bowden on this setup if you really want to, but that's one advantage to going with the. Sorry, my dogs are going wild. Give me 1 second. Okay. So if you were to want to go Bowden on something like this, you would just sorry. Okay, there.
Yeah, I assume you could
Yeah.
thread it or something along the
Yeah.
lines of
Also,
that.
what you would do is you would just have a printed plate to where you would have that threaded into. You can either do that, or really you could tap this if you wanted to something. Right now it's set up for 6 mil, so you can, if you wanted to go Bowden, you just mount a 3 mil hot end or something on the bottom if you wanted to, and go 3 mil here as well. If you you have the advantage of going Bowden or direct. But let's be honest, most people these days, their direct or go home. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
yeah. Oh, thank you, Digital Dragon. I really appreciate it. See that, Brandon?
Yeah, it's cool.
Really appreciate it, man. I don't think I have seen Digital Dragon, but appreciate you coming. Hey, KB3D, how's it going? Hey, thanks for stopping by. Right now, we are kind of working on the design of a new printer that's going to be like a kit printer, but we're also releasing all the files. And we're trying to make it as modular as possible for on a new design. Awesome. Thanks everybody for coming. So yeah, we're trying to make a printer that's modular. So if somebody wants to run like a Duet electronics, we want to be able to incorporate that, but also because Duet is kind of our standard at Project Red. But if somebody wants to use something like a Big Tree Tech or something like that, you'll be able to if you want to go with the new CAN stuff like that. The big thing is we're also incorporating in components we already have on hand. The reason why is so this is the Apollo's crossbeam. We're incorporating that into this, and along with that, we're also incorporating the MK2 or MK52 style bed. That will allow you to use all of the Prusa flex plates. We have a lot of those as well on hand from the Apollos, and the goal for this whole thing is to be under $1,000. And we would really like to be even further below that. The intentions are all the files are going to be available to you if you want to make all this stuff. We're trying to make it to where as much as possible of this design is going to be able to be done with with laser cut metal, steel, or aluminum. That way anybody can take all of these parts, go to Send Cut Send or Oshcut, get them all made or bent, like cut and bent. You may have to do a little bit of tapping if you do it all yourself. And then what you do is you take that and you have a full printer with a Prusa style bed. So everybody has those flex plates. So yeah, we're trying to make it as modular as possible. One other goal we have is to make it to where the Z is belted. We do have the Z brake boards, but you can also do like a geared system, like a like the Voron. So you really the options are going to be as much as possible, right? Yeah, so yeah, we're gonna make these kits. We'll have them available. The goal is by the end of the year. We're moving pretty quickly on these. So the big thing is once we are done here with our X and U, we'll be getting these top plates cut. Brandon, he's another voice you're gonna hear in here. He helps us out a lot. He's the guy you would see at our booth at Murphs and Earths and stuff like that. I'm
the guy that's gonna buy a Voron Zero one of these times.
Yeah, one of these days he'll buy a board. Oh yeah, yeah, that's who that is. Yeah. He's already got all these parts. Joe Spanier will have all these parts as well. The thing is as we design this, we are going to make the parts, release the final files of each component as we design it, so that we can test it. The goal is to get this going very quickly, and just for fun. I'm holding it for you, yeah. So, but yeah, so that's kind of where we're at now. It's not going to be the flashiest printer in the world, I don't think. It's not going to be anything too groundbreaking, but we just want as many people to be able to build this. If they want to get all the parts made themselves, they can do it. And then them have a fast printer, a little bit bigger than a Voron Zero. The Voron Zeros are great. Personally, have had mine at about 80% built for the last year and a half. It's still not done, but somewhere in between the Vorons and the Daedalus is like the Voron Zero and the Voron 0. Or the Voron 2 and the Daedalus is in size. It's going to be 250 by 220 is what your print volume should be. The biggest problem is these stupid studs right here. But yeah. Oh, hey, Joe. How's it going? Oh, Joe's. I don't know if you saw that on the
YouTube.
YouTubes, on the tubes. All right. So, yeah. So the big step now is, now that we have this kind of felt out, and we have X and U, like the motion side kind of done, we're going to have to start feeling out our front of our Y motion. Right? So we look back at the top, we do need to have two idlers here. So if you look, these are not slotted for the motor movement on either side. These will be tapped M4s for our shoulder bolts. So what you'll do is you'll have it come off of a front idler, back and around your stepper, so you're getting full contact. And then come back up and hit this idler. So we're getting as much contact around the pulley as possible. So to try to make sure that like the teeth contact is going to be vital for the speeds we want to try to hit with this thing. So that's why we're doing it this way. So let's get an idler pulled up so that we can have these in place for the back. So these are Gates idlers that we will be designing into this. So if we go here, we'll double this. So KB3D, are you guys doing anything new and cool with the black box? I know I saw it last year at Murph. Didn't see it this year though. I don't think I saw one this year. But that thing was pretty cool, that tool changer. I'm excited to see. Latest revision will be at Earth. Ah, sweet. Sadly, we will not be at Earth this year. Womp womp. So, well, that isn't gonna work. So we'll have to shift this idler up slightly, which means we'll have to shift this. No, we should be able to get away with it. So what is the spacing here? So our shims are 0.4 mil. And that's 0.5. So we can't shim it too much. So we're probably going to have to go to a 45 on this shoulder bolt, which is not a big deal. The big thing is we're going to need this idler, which is, I believe, right up against this. We'll have to bolt it down. That's the plan, Brandon. We want it really kicking. So what's going to, if you don't mind, what's going to be new on the black box? I know you got everything's like water cooled on the black box and stuff like that, which is, I know you have the water cool setups. I don't know if everything is, but this will have to be at least 0.4 because that is what our shims are. So this will have to get shifted up. Oh, oh, but yeah. So we'll do that in. Yeah. So we're gonna have coming up here. So it's going there, back here, and around. So we're gonna have 2 stacks here, or 2 idlers here. Capture position. So we need to at least have 1 shim between that and that. That's fine and all. So nope, not point 0.4. We'll leave some gap so that these can move a little bit more. Mostly just an overhaul, ease of assembly and easy. Nice. That's awesome. Excited to see what you guys have cooking up. Just did some cool stuff with the black box. I think the first time I heard about the black box was on a Twitch stream. I saw you printing with that, and that was, I mean, the black box is the tool changer before the whatchamacallit. What's that new one? The Pro Forge out of the UK. That thing took off like crazy on a Kickstarter, which was nice. But you guys had a nice fully set up tool changer before anybody else, really, other than like E3D. And you guys did your guys' tool change differently too, didn't you guys have your motors, your extruder went, sorry, your extruder gear from the motor, didn't it like, didn't
Yeah,
one
it looks like
extruder
it.
motor move between each one? Went
Yeah, it's
wild.
one motor. It looks like.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and
it
they
has its
they made the
attachment.
gear, the inner gear themselves, I believe. It had to have been out of like a Delrin or a Palm or something. Pro Forge Oil, can't say I'm a huge fan of a lot of yeah, I was surprised about how wild it went. Good for them. I'm excited to see them, fulfill and do all that stuff. If I were to design a tool changer, I think it would be a little bit different personally. But hey, you do what you got to do. I mean, everybody thinks a little bit differently when they design stuff. I'm excited to see how well it works out. I mean, I have tool changer. I have the E3D tool changer. I personally despise the thing more than anything. It's more of a hate relationship more than a love hate. Just because it does average like a 80% hate, 20% love situation. Oh, are you talking about the Type A, Brandon?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Brandon acquired a Type A machines. What was it? Type A Pro. If
Yep.
anybody
Pro.
in here hasn't seen a Type A Pro machine before, look it up. They were like four. Really, they started out about $3,400, and then um, they realized that building a 3D printer in California was expensive, and out of very high quality materials. It was all it's all sheet metal. It used a sorry, I'm gonna pull in another shoulder bolt here. It used sheet metal and some
Glass
weird
build plate,
board,
right?
a very weird board. What's that?
The glass build plate,
A
right?
glass build plate. If you wanted the heated option, it didn't come standard. Um, where did I put the shoulder? Oh, there it is, right there. Yeah, it didn't come standard. You had to buy it separately, and they made it pretty cool. Like where you can easily add it in. Let's get rid
Built-in
of this bag.
webcam.
The built-in webcam. This was way early too, way before you saw like a lot of webcams. And like, don't get me wrong, they had a handful of things that were really cool. But it was like a C style design, kind of like what the Prusa XL is set up as now.
Yeah, similar. Yeah, right.
So yeah, we're gonna have to go a 25 mil bolt here, just because there's not really like a 22. But we'll put a standoff at the top to make sure they're retained. And we'll make sure that these idlers have room to kind of wiggle up and down just a little bit. You don't want them wiggling like over a mil, but you do want them to be able to free spin. Or else you're gonna on these gates, pulleys and not so much pulleys on the idlers. If you have them too tight, they'll actually explode. That's what we found with our rail corp kits, where people would put too many shims in and they wouldn't allow them to wiggle at all, which seems really good when you're designing something and you're building it and it's not moving yet. Seems like a real good idea. End of the day, not so good. But what was I saying? The Type A machines, they're like a C style design. They had a Beagle board black, which is like the super muscular cousin of the first run of Raspberry Pis. So it ran Octoprint on the machine. Had
I'm seeing
Wi-Fi
it's
and
saying
Ethernet.
it has secondary onboard computer.
Yeah,
RepRap Universal Mega Board. Alrego, the Roomba.
it's the RepRap BeagleBone Black is what that is.
Yeah, and then it had another computer on it, secondary.
No, that is the secondary. The main is their own driver board or their own.
Oh, it says primary board was BeagleBone Black, and then the secondary was this Roomba.
Oh, that Roomba is like your main board for your printer. That's what a Roomba is. It's going to be like this orangish yellow main board. It's the ugliest thing in the world. I think when I pulled mine out, first person I sent it to was Spanier, and I said, "Hey, do you want this thing?" And he's like, "Throw it in the trash." They're terrible. And of course they're older. They had the drop-in drivers. I think those printers were new in like 17. But yeah, they ended up coming out with this printer. It was really cool. Everybody liked it. It was $3,000, and then they brought the price up to 45, or no, it was 3,500. Then they brought it up to 39. Then they brought it up. I think it ended up being like $4,100. They were crap cards, yeah. And it kind of just killed it because everybody. You can't really be like, hey, here's this printer. It's this many dollar bills. Now I want it to be worth this many dollar bills. And you expect the same people who are like, ooh, I was interested at $3,000 to now be interested at $4,000. And no real changes were made. And that really killed it. Had a really cool hot end. The hot end was like a needle type nozzle. So you never had leaks, which was really cool. But at the end of the day, even though you had no leaks, then there was really no way to we're gonna duplicate an idler here. There was no way of getting a nozzle from someone else. That was one of the biggest problems. So there was an employee of the company when they went out of business a few years back. There was an employee of the company that bought all of the assets of Type A. And sadly, like, I was buying replacement parts from them. But I looked, when Brandon said he was looking at buying one of these Type A's, the first thing I did was I went to go look, because I I stopped running my Type A. But I went and looked, and sadly, they are gone. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to get more of the needle sight nozzles. So
What did you end up doing with yours again?
I put a duet Wi-Fi in mine. Yeah. Um, because what happened with mine was my driver, one of my drivers died, so I bought a 2209 driver for it because somebody on a forum said that that's what they did. And honestly, I haven't used a board that needs external drivers like pin style insert drivers um for a very 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 long time.
Mhm.
Like I don't know the last time I had to use one of those. So like I've been on Duet since 2016. Nope, those 30. Okay, oops. So we're gonna have to extend this out. So there's where our idler is. We're gonna at least have to, let's call this 38 plus 20 for our extrusion. Actually, plus 25 to account for space for that idler. Yeah. But this is also our extrusion here is gonna be 40 by 20. So we want to make sure that, and then we're going to put some references in here. 10, 10. So this is going to be where the bolt holes are for going down to a 2040 extrusion, like so many others. Yeah. So let's actually make these 10. The reason why I'm going to go 10 here is our bolts are of course not going to be 10s, but um the head of our bolt is going to be a 10 mil. Is what it's the zone I'd like to assign to being the bolt head, so I have clearance for everything. We finally onboard. Yeah, the duet boards. Don't get me wrong. I understand why some people like your uh like why people like their big tree techs. Honestly, I have a big tree tech board sitting around. I don't have any in any machines because, like I said, I haven't finished my zero yet. So we're gonna move this over. Why are people going? All right. Gosh darn it! Stop it. I'm not gonna rename you. I'm just gonna move you. So the center is 12. So we're gonna move over at least 6. Nope. No, we have to move over 12. Idiot. Sorry, sometimes I'm dumb. Plus, we're gonna a gate belt is its standard is I believe 1.38 mil, but that's counting teeth. So this won't be a smooth idler. This will be a toothed idler. Yes. I don't know if that was a duplicate send or yes, KB3D. Oh, or is that a different KB? Oh, it's over on the YouTubes. Okay, you're just saying hi in both places. One second.
Or maybe he's saying hi to the other Joe.
Oh, maybe it's the other Joe. Oh, sorry. Sorry. I forgot. I am actually now that Spanier's here, I am the Joe number 2 in all aspects. Joe Spanier is kind of my litmus test for people in 3D printing. Normally if someone goes, oh, I've been in 3D printing for this many years and I know a lot about 3D printing, I go, do you know Joe Spanier? And normally If they say no, I go, okay. Like, now I know what level of 3D printing you're in. Because Spanier's kind of been around for a minute. I don't know if anybody here doesn't know the legend of Joe Spanier. He's a certified baddie. I think that's the best way we can describe him. He worked at Cat, building really cool things there. Yeah, surprisingly there's people that don't know him, and it confuses the crap out of me. But yeah, he was a engineer at Cat, and then he was at Lulzbot. He worked on a lot of the TAS 6, right, Joe? If you're still around, yeah. But if you don't know Joe Spanier, go and follow him. He also used, if you don't know, fun fact, he was a yoga instructor or something at one time, and
Fire
I
breathing,
believe
right?
a fire artist guy. He would throw he'd spin fire and stuff. He's a little scary. His whole family's pretty following along in the being a certified badass. His kids are awesome. His significant other is also awesome, doing awesome things. So, yeah. If you don't know Joe Spanier, make sure you try to meet him. I think Spanier, are you going? Humble Patty. Quiet background, Batty. Joe, are you going to Earth? I know you talked about it. Let's make sure that everything here is lining up. Hold on a second. The Pezliz, you do a lot with the Maker live stream thing, right? If I remember correctly, what's that live stream thing, Brandon? Where they were having a bunch of 3D printer people streaming.
Not the one run by
Maker Deck.
Maker
Maker
Deck.
Deck. That's it.
I'll take what is Maker Deck for 600?
Maker, yeah. So let's do 5. No. Try 6. Right now we're just kind of feeling stuff out, trying to figure out why this isn't lining up perfectly. It should be, because that's a tooth and this is a tooth, and this is lining up here. Oh, I know why. I think I put in, I know why, because I did a 1. I believe I accounted for 1 point. Negative 0.35. Yeah, I counted for the full width of the belt, which wouldn't be a bad idea. So it's weird, yeah. I help run Maker Deck or Makers before countries. Yeah, that's awesome. It's awesome to see things. And from what I understand, you guys do some shows as well, not just streaming 3D printers, right? I've checked in on a few of the streams, but it's been a minute. So let's do this. Let's get back into the sketch here, and we're gonna actually put in some bolt holes for the 4040 extrude or 2040 extrusion. We're going to we're going to do pass through, so 5.5s. So if anybody, I'm sure a lot of people here have built fun printers, kit printers, stuff like that. If anybody here has some ideas on what they would like to see in like a kit printer or anything like that, or if you go, hey, I wish there was printers that more of them did this or that. Post it up. If there's a specific extruder you think would be cool, right now we have this design to accept the Orbiter 2 and the LGX Lite, but there's nothing really holding us down to that. I have a show once a week called Z and Z. Austin. I think I've seen part of one of those shows. We were about a year and a half into 3D printing and share what we learn, etc. Except live programming on the channel too. Oh, when do you guys have your show? What day of the week is it? Make sure the people here know about it. I'm sure probably people here know more about it than I do since I just haven't been paying attention. So let's get this whole projected down. Then we can come in here, grab this idler. This would be 4, but it's actually like 3 point. What's the drill size for 4 mil hole, Brandon?
4 millimeters.
No, you're a liar.
I don't know. I don't know on 4 mil.
Oh, jeez, it's 3.3.
Is it 3.3?
Yeah, I don't have any of my stuff set out. What in the world did I just do? So we know that this is gonna be a tapped hole. Mondays at 10 p.m. on Twitch. It's published on MakerDeck on YouTube, and I added it. Okay, sweet. Is that okay? 10 p.m. Is that Central Time? Is that Eastern Time? Because that will make a difference. So now we have LBX is gonna be a great time. 4.2 Eastern, sweet Eastern. Tap drill is 3. Thanks, Brandon, or thanks, Joe. That sounds like something Brandon would have told me, but I really appreciate that. I'm on Montreal. He's in Maine. Oh, okay. Nice. So if anybody here doesn't know about that show, make sure you check it out. I think they said it's posted on the MakerDeck Twitch. So one thing I was thinking about before the stream was, do we try to go centerless homing, or do we try to go end stops? I know centerless homing has come a long way. I know we tried centerless homing on the Apollo, but on a Core XZ, it just didn't fly. It was not happening at all. So let's double check this with a bed. Make sure that we're not going to be interfering with anything too crazy. One thing with this bed is we have the standard circuit board heater style of the MK52. It is actually made by LDO. It's the same thing they use for the switch wires. It's the same thing we use. It's the same thing. I believe, what's their names over in Wuxin? I believe they use the same beds. And then Hydra Research did it as well. RIP. So yeah, we want to make sure our bed's behind this, because we're gonna have off this extrusion piece, we're gonna have a linear rail, and we're gonna have our gantry coming, or what we call yokes in house. Configurability goals mean. I personally love end stops. I hate ew. So when we were doing design work for IC3D for their big printer, we had an our electrical engineer had somebody, like, we would always have random companies come in and pitch us ideas and things. We had like baffle companies come in, we had linear rail companies and ball screw companies come in and pitch us, because these were 1200 by 1200 millimeter printers. They use giant ball screws, so all these companies wanted this business. And one day we had a sales rep come in for a laser company that uses lasers as for positioning and stuff. And this engineer was so dead set on we needed to have, instead of in stops, use these lasers. And and he got quotes for them, and they were like, if I remember correctly, they were like $8,000 for one axis, to have an in stop on one axis. And we had in stops on two Y's and an X and a U and a third head. So um it was going to be very expensive. And we told him we could do lasers if he went and told our engineering assistants that they no longer had a job. And he finally backed down from wanting to do lasers because he didn't have the guts to tell a guy he was fired. But yeah, I mean, the dream is the dream, right? So we'll have to really sit. So one big goal is that this top plate will be easily lasered, right? Which is why we don't have these counterboard. So we could do very tight corners with it being laser, but and another reason why we need to have this much space between our extrusion and our rail is the fact that we need some way to tension the belt. That's another thing. Is we like I said, we want to do a belted Z so that if somebody got this and they just bought just the top, or they wanted to make just the top, they can then put this on a 500 mil, a 300 mil, 1,000 millimeter, like a meter tall version of this. Literally, all it would be doing is extending your rail, and I say that like you just stretch it out, but getting a longer extrusion, longer linear rail, and a longer belt to make it to where you can make this any size you really dream of. And that's kind of the idea there. But we'll have a 2020 or 2040 extrusion here, one in each of the back corners, and we'll have a center one as well. That'll mount into this plate here, so that we could really probably mount it in the front of this plate. As long as we don't we will contact. That's why we cannot do that. So the idea would be if we could put it in front of this plate and put a 2040 here, we can then put all the electronics under this in the back. But right now it's looking like we'll have to hang the electronics box off the back. I make it to where that's modular, so no matter what size you go with, you have this one electronics box that mounts on the back. It'll have multiple hole placements, so you can do all your big tree techs and all that other stuff. So Brandon, you started working with that screen. What screen was that you worked on?
It was I forget the official name, but I did take the big tree tech version of it.
So it's a small screen. Is that the one that you're using for the Voron Zero?
Makerbase MKS Mini.
MKS Mini. So yeah. Like for people who want to do screens on things like this,
it got it working with Duet, which
yeah, that's the big thing. Is it started working with Duet, and we mostly use Duet, like I mentioned. And the Duet screens, I would have to say, are lackluster compared to modern big tree tech. Like, not so much that mini screen, stuff like that, but like I wish they would do more with it. Granted, it is open source. If I wanted to do more with it, I could do it. But I am a hardware guy. I am not a software guy. So, yeah. So, what we'll do is we'll be able to put some rounds on these. We'll want these at 1.5. The reason why we want these at 1.5 is because that's what the radius of the edges of a 2040 extrusion are. So we'll want to beef this up just because we do have this thread here. Granted, the direction of the pull is towards the back for our belt, but we still want to beef it up a little bit. Not like that, though. I don't know what that was. Nope, that's not the angle. You know, if I position this better, I could easily select that corner. Not like that. Sorry. Let me finish having my stroke here, and we'll get on with the show. Okay. Yeah, that's not quite enough heft there, I think. Well, and we have the space. So let's go 2 distances. And this is going to be 10, and this will be 15. That gives it a little bit more meat to hold on to there, so you don't have it randomly pulling weird. So the goal is this will be aluminum. This plate here will be steel, just because we want it to be able to bend well and be pretty tough. And this cross beam is currently the ones we have already made are made from 6061. So they're hefty. They're also not pocketed out. So they are a little beefy. And this will be the ones we kind of test off of for now. Long term, we want to probably pocket those out just to lighten it up a little bit, but not too crazy. We're not chasing the lightest motion system possible. We're just chasing something that's going to be reliably fast. I'm going to fix this before I forget, because this looks oogly. 3. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll end up mirroring this over. Gives us enough places to mount whatever motion or whatever way we want to tension this Z up, right? So that's what the goal is for having this extra heft here. And the fact that we want to be able to have all this fan shroud area. So if we look at this, this is all the way forward. We want to double check what our we want to double check and make sure that we're going to have a lot of space for our part cooling. So whatever part cooling, whatever fan system you're using, you're going to be good. So yeah, so you'll have all of this front space here. You may be limited to a 50-15 here, but let's double check that again. Sorry, I just want to make sure that we're designing this to where you could put whatever cooling system you want. If you want to go to a 50-15, if you want to go to 2 50-15s, we want it to be kosher. So I have a lot of random references to pull in things. So it may be a little tight. No. You are Gucci here. Look at that. You could hang a 50-15 fan. Maybe not upside down like this, but maybe like that. So depending on what hot end you're wanting. If you want a real short, like the Pico hot end, you can mount this sucker way up here. If you want to go with a standard hot end, you can mount it way down here. If you want to go with a super volcano, I mean, you can put it way down here. Those things are stupid long. But yeah, so that's the big thing. That's why we're going to add a couple ears. Might have to add an ear. May just have to add bolt holes here in this bottom plate so that you can mount it up to the back. That might be better anyways, so that you can easily get there. The only thing you're gonna have an issue with is if you're trying to do a hot end and you have if it's real short, you might run into the fact that the fan, if you're having the fan blow from the front to the back on it, you may have a little disturbance in the air if it hits this back rail. So you're going to want it to be, at least you may have to angle it down, have something back here to divert the air down. But at that point in time, you may want to design something that pushes it out under this rail, so you're not pushing it down under your bed. It's the big thing. So we do have a lot of space here for end stops. We want to actually put it on this gantry so that everything's flying together. We're not going to do cable chains because we want people to put whatever they want on this. Putting it in cable chains is going to confine things, and for those who have designed for cable chains, it's a pain in the butt, because you have very strict set of parameters you need to follow for cable chains. For like how much you fill it, what's the minimum bin radius of a cable chain, and having your wires set to those minimum bin radiuses. So if we put a cable chain on this and somebody just wants to add in whatever they want, then they're going to be limited long term on what they put in the system just because of those limitations. So yeah. So we have this for Z. I don't know if anybody's seen. Brandon, you remember those KB3D may know who I'm talking about. It's like a metal. It's for the Voron 2.4, and it's the belt tensioner, and they're billet. They're billet aluminum, and they're red and black, and they have this giant wheel on them.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you remember we saw those at Murph? KB3D might know who they are because I know they sell a lot of stuff too. But I think it was West 3D that maybe had it. Sorry, KB3D, for bringing up competition. But they had these really cool ways of tensioning, and I saw that and I thought that was cool. Another way we can do this is if we put a hole in the top of this here, we can have it to where you tension it from the top. But the big thing is we kind of want to make sure that we do have a way of tensioning this belt. We don't really want you to have to be able to like loosen the motor on the Z and push down or anything like that. So that's one thing we have to do. Right now we have to bring in, actually, let's bring in a piece of 2020 or 2040 extrusion. Let me continue to have a stroke over here. Let's start with the rails we have in stock for this, like setup for this, are 300 mil long. So we're gonna do custom link 400 mil extrusions. Add this to the thing. This is one great thing about Fusion is you can easily add in.
Oh yeah, there I just found it. Sorry.
Did you find
Chaotic
what I
Lab.
Chaotic Lab. I
Tensioner.
believe they're made in China. I do believe, because I looked on their website specifically, and
$50 for a set of 4.
that's not a bad price. Is all I'm saying. But they're we remember we played with them at Murph, yeah, and they were pretty cool looking. Oh, I found another way to do this, so I don't have to deal with this stupid. Deal with the same thing we dealt with last time. I made sure that I matched the radius. So this is actually not the style extrusions we work with. We don't work with the cross pattern ones. We work with a full circle so that we can get a real good tap in it. So if we're looking at this here, this will be like the smallest one that we'll probably offer. But like I said, anybody, if you want to have a 150 millimeter tall one and you want to go, what they call it, the Viking? Is that what Lowell's bot called that little tiny thing with only like 100 millimeter build volume in Z?
That might, I don't know if that was the official name, but
that's what they were telling people at Murph.
Was that at Murph they were saying that?
Yeah, last Murph. They didn't bring it this year.
No, they did not.
So let me pull in a rail. So, an earlier KB3D said, "Oh, you're designing a printer that you don't have to build." Yes, that is true with this one, but we also have the Talos now, which is definitely a printer we have to build because we're building it first and then taking it apart, and that's gonna be fun. Okay, so these are. Okay, there we go. So. I'm silly. I should have just moved it a little bit. Sorry. Get rid of this. We'll be done with this mundane, boring crap here in a second. All right. So we're gonna have our Z rail, and then we have our carriage. Bring that in. The reason why the way I get these assets, one of the biggest things in designing a printer is you got to make sure you have assets to compare to, right? I'm not going to sit there and design each asset. I've done that before, and I hated my life. And I don't want you to hate your life. So, places that we get our assets from for designing. One of the big ones is GrabCAD Library. It's one of our big ones. But if you don't see what you need on GrabCAD, make sure you go to if you're getting like an electronic and you need a footprint for an electronic, go to DigiKey, go to Arrow and anything like that. They'll normally have either if they won't have the design, they'll have the drawing for it. A lot of times, all like for an electronic, you don't need all the doodads and doodads of the component. All you need is really your footprint and your mounting points, right? So grab them from the big things. DigiKey and Arrow is what we use the most. If you are looking for specific components like linear rails, what we normally pull our linear rail ones from is if we go to the Highwind website, because they are the ones who like set the standards for MGN. Go on there. You just have to use your email. They'll just ask for it. They don't really ever send anything new. They may send you stupid promotional crap, but you can get your rail. And what I suggest is when you specifically get rails, pull in the rail and the carriage separately. That way, when you want to build out assemblies like we have here, this rail here moves along this, or this carriage here moves along this rail, because in all reality, the rail isn't tied to the carriage. The carriage is tied to the component, and the rail is hard mounted somewhere. So bring them in separately, and then just make sure that you align them properly. Or else, of course, if you don't align it properly, you're kind of dead in the water long term. But Masumi has a really good library of components. McMaster Car is really good at having all of their components on their website having a 3D model. Which, by the way, if somebody's looking for a job right now, I do believe they are hiring in Chicagoland area for CAD designers. And then who's the other one? I wanted to make sure somebody knew about the other. McMaster Car. But then if you go on to Fusion, you can hit this button right here, X up here, and insert, and utilize this. Insert from a manufacturer part. You may not find the exact thing you want, but you'll find something very similar. So utilize these things so that you don't have to work off drawings the rest of your life, because it will help you a lot. Ooh, sorry. Are you looking at the Orbiter 3 V3 Smart? Sorry, I missed that message a while ago. Brandon, what are you doing? You still there, Brandon?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Share the product. Joe's messaging me. CNC. Oh my gosh. Joe, you are a bad influence. Joe messaged me a CNC to buy. Joe,
okay.
I'm already my heart is broken today already. I tried to buy a booth setup from 3D Fuel, but they wanted at an auction, but they wanted way too much money for it. And that's where Brandon got his little Type A machine. So, yeah, there's our little lesson for today.
Did Joe send you the
Where-
VMC2 Vertical Machining Center?
Is it the little one, the blue one,
Yeah.
D and M
No,
6?
no, this is the one that you were tracked machine tools. We
Um,
saw him
oh,
at the show
yeah, Track's a
in
cool machine
Chicago.
system.
Yeah, I see
You
you used
you don't
one.
you don't like
Went
them?
up for sale by me. I'm sure they're fine.
No, you didn't like the electronics, right? So
Yeah, I'm sure it's fine in the end.
so for our Z, the big things we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to design our own. Uh, we're gonna have to design our own bed carriage system. Um, but we're gonna use the same mounting points, of course, of the Mark 52 bed. But when we design the full Z, we're gonna have like yokes come out, kind of like if you look at Brandon. I don't know if you could pull this up and post it in there, but what 3D Printing World did. On his if also if you guys don't know 3D Printing World, the guy is awesome. He is beyond smart. But he did it with the Moldex printer where he has arms coming off. I believe they do that also on the rat rigs and stuff. But what we want is the Mark 52 bed is normally set static, right? It's not, it doesn't tilt because it's on a Y. It's mainly used in your bed slinger style printers. Oh, before I keep going, let me answer this guy. The Orbiter V3 Smart. Which one is that? Orbiter V3 Smart. Is that's
The new
the
one
one?
that hasn't released yet,
It
right?
hasn't released yet, right? Yeah, and it's Zombie posted it on Twitter back on. I think this was the one that was at Murph. Yeah, it looks awesome. The problem you're gonna have with it, yeah, we talked to Jason about it. The problem is it's not releasing for a little while. And by then there will also be some other hot ends and extruder combos coming, hopefully, from some people. Maybe one day, somewhere over the rainbow. The problem with that is you're gonna have it hang like the nozzle's not gonna reach under this rail here. But the way you can get around that is we can make, if we have a lot of people say, hey, we want this or not that one. Like if somebody wants to go with like a full size LGX Ace or something like that, we can make this a U and have a mounting plate here so people can make sure that nozzle does go down far enough. So we would probably actually have it an S so that you can have right in this area we can have extruders mount directly to it, like on their sides and stuff like that, like what the 3 looks like it's going to be set up. It looks like it's got a 4-hole mounting pattern on both sides, or at least on one side it looks like it's got 2 bolt holes on the other, from what I'm seeing from this picture. So we can definitely do that if we get a lot of people who want that. So the goal is when we would ship one of these things, the goal would be for us to fully assemble the X and U, have it belted and ready to go out of the box. And literally all you're doing is bolting on your Z and your bottom plate, and then putting on whatever electronics you want. If you want to like fully set up electronics from us, it'll most likely be the Duet 3 Mini, because that's kind of our bread and butter. I don't want to right off the bat be like, oh, here's all these Tree Tech options as well. We'll make it to where you can mount all those options and do all your stuff and do clipper and all that other stuff if you want. But that's not our forte, and I don't want to act. There's a lot of people in the community that know a lot more about Clipper and stuff like that than we do in house. So we don't want to be like, here's this thing we know what we're doing. We're gonna stick to what we're good at, and we'll offer the duet, but we'll make it to where you can easily put on um, whatever electronics you want. And we want to be able to make an umbilical option, depending on what system you're using. So that's kind of the ideas there. So yeah, so that's what we're gonna do for like people who are wanting those pretty much like the compact extruder hot end combos. That's what we're gonna do there. So we kind of have the X and U kind of finished up here. Like what we're gonna do. What I'm gonna do all the mundane, boring design stuff where I'm literally just cleaning things up. I'm gonna do that off stream so you guys don't have to sit through that mind numbingness. But the idea is, does anybody have any suggestions on what they want to see? Do you guys want to see belted? Is there somebody out there that wants to see um lead screw and anti-backlash nut and stuff like that? Um from what we've heard and seen, most people want belted just because of the expandability. But yeah, let us know. But yeah, that's what we're probably going to move from this now while I pull in a bunch of off stream I'll pull in a bunch of Z stuff and then we could show that more. And then what we could probably do now is switch over to Talos. And we want to break down X and U tonight. Show you guys. So Talos, if you guys don't know, what's that, Brent?
I got a question.
What's the
Before we
question?
switch over to Talos.
Yeah.
How about say you build a 300 tall and I want to switch it to 600 tall. Is there any way to adapt linear rails? Could I buy another 300 linear rail? That just doesn't work out.
There are linear rails out there that you can put butt to butt, but they are normally machined in a pair.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way they're cut, you're not gonna be able to take a random, like pick up two out of a box and be like, I'm gonna put these butt to butt. You're not gonna do that. It's not gonna glide perfectly. So like when you do, if you say you want a linear rail that's 4,000 millimeters long, so 4 meters, what they'll do is they'll normally make 2 meters and butt them up, and they machine and face those together so that they know they're a perfect fit. So no, you're not going to be able to easily do that. You would have to go the route of just getting a longer rail. But like, let's be honest, like if you want to go to a 700 millimeter long rail, LDL linear 700 millimeter long rails are available at most resellers and stuff like that. It's not going to be too crazy to get. But yeah, if you're wanting to switch after you buy like a kit, yeah, that might be an issue. What we plan to offer is a bring your own Z rail option, and we'll send you just a bunch of belt, or we'll have a set lengths of rail that you can opt for. So like most likely you're gonna have your 4s, your 3s, your 4s, your 5s, and your 7s, and then your meter longs. And that's what your options are really gonna be from us. Just because those are the rails that are the most common. But yeah. Is Luke in here? Did I see something about Luke? Did I miss something?
Mini extruders.
What's that?
What's the mini extruder? Versa mini? Or is there a different mini?
Where are you seeing that at?
Joe's saying make the mini extruder work.
Oh, I think he's talking about. Are you talking about all the extruder, the compact extruders, Joe? If you're talking about the Prusa mini extruder,
like the orbiters.
Oh no, I think he's talking about like the orbiter, yeah, like the Orbiter 3 and other things that are like the H2s and other things. But yeah, Joe, that's kind of the idea with possibly making this into an S as well, having two options, which we probably could do. Make it to where people can order it with the S, and then if they want to switch away from that, have a plate that bolts on top of it that'll take the Orbiter 2 and the LGX. That is definitely something we can look at. But yeah, so that's something. So yeah, let's leave this here for right now. Not sure if this Thursday we'll be back on it, or this Thursday will be on the going hands-on with Talos components. But let's jump over to Talos. And if people don't know, the Talos is our printer. They're going up for sale on September 1st. We're shipping them October 30th. And over that time, we're going to be getting a lot of the production parts in. We do not call it Talos in-house. We called it Goliath. That's there it is. All right. So let's look at. We're going to look at X. Go and give it to you. X production. All right. So now we're going to dig into a little bit of what we're doing for this big guy. So the Talos is going to be a 600 in the Y, 600 in the Z, and X is going to be 600, 1200, or 1800 millimeters long. So if we see here, right now, this does not have the printed covers over it, so because we wanted you to see what we're working with here. So right now, these are just placeholders for. This is what E3D gives you for the stand-in component for designing reference around, and this is the Chimera XS. So that's going to be one of the options for the Talos, the Chimera XS. The reason why is because we not only do we have the high flow options, but we also have the hardened and the standard options. And if we look back at proper 3D printing, he did a an extruder head to head. I don't know if you could find that, Brandon, and post that in the chat. I don't know why it's not bringing everything into this one chat, but make sure I'm not missing anything. No. Proper printing. Yeah, John. He did the extruder head to head.
Is that the battles?
What's that?
Is that the battles?
Yeah, it's the
against
battles.
each other?
Yeah, and the Chimeras did very well at that in those battles. So yeah, we're gonna do that LGX as well for people who want to run mosquitoes. So you could do the Ace, the standard mosquito, full size, or the for those people who really want to play with 3mm filament, we intend on having a QR mount for those. So our X and U. So I keep changing the name of this. This is X and U, right? This is going to stay 600, but the Y will extend. I'll just kind of go with that reference for now. So X and U ride on two MGN12 extrusion linear rails. Each one has two carriages mounted to each plate. It's all riding on a 2040 extrusion. We have bent sheet metal on each end. This is 3mm steel. And we have our idlers here. There will be a standoff here. But yes, a standard shoulder bolt does stick through. But if you go by standards, this is actually correct because we're going to have more than 3 threads in contact at all times there. So we're going to be able to get our proper tension. Each motor, so these are 48mm long steppers. On this X and U, we have it firmware limited right now, and it's sitting at 1,000. I believe it's 1,078 millimeters a second max speeds, and that's limited in firmware. We have IGIS cable chain. Each head's gonna have its own uh, tool board from Duet. Nice thing about these tool boards is they have accelerometers built in them, so it'll all be CAN. The only thing going through each of these cable chains is one wire that has 4 wires inside of it, but one cable, sorry, with 4 wires, which 2 are power and 2 are CAN. That'll be going through this, and they'll all come back to this point here, this junction, where our Y cable chain will come up, and that will have wires for, it'll have 2 stepper motor wires ran, so a total of 8 wires there, and then 1 CAN bundle, which will have 2 power and 2 CAN wires. And you'll have your power coming here, your CAN come into this RJ11 jack, and then what this does is this is our tool distribution board. So we have power out for 4 heads, but we're only utilizing 2. 4 heads and 2 CAN wires. So really, all this is a junction box. It's splitting it up a little bit for us. So, for Talos, right? Huh? I'm confused, Brandon.
Spanier said he wanted the orbiter small compact
Oh, yeah,
for the Talos.
for the Talos.
Of course not. It was a bad joke.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was a very bad joke.
You will outrun those things like nobody's business.
I'm very excited about the Talos here with the wiring. I just love wiring. That's fun.
Yeah.
The
So
tool boards would be really cool.
Yep. So you're gonna have your MGN12s here, but on your Y, we're actually running MGN15s. We're also, if you look, like these are set up for, if you look here at these belt clips. So what the belt comes in, loops around, there's a bolt that pushes it down with a plate, similar to what we're doing on the small guy. But for this one, this is 12 mil belts with and the Y motors are NEMA 23s. Big chonky boys. I just got the spec sheet for these as well. And I could tell you exactly how beefy these motors are. Because, not Lisa, Rebecca. Sorry. So yeah, we're looking at where's the beefy on this? Anyways, the we are going with large motors. 1.85 Newton meters, so 261.98 ounce inches. What we're kind of aiming at. Like those are the motors that we have set up for the Y. So they'll be very beefy. They'll also be running on 48 volts. So that's one fun thing that we're working on now is finalizing everything in the electrical box. Not so much the components. We already have that finalized. The issue is fitting everything in. So, yeah. So these motors here will be ran on 48 volts, but the heads themselves be ran on 24 volt off of these. Sadly, these don't. You can't use 48 on the tool boards, but so we're gonna have a lot of power in each motor. We're gonna be able to move very, very fast. And but the advantage is if you run 48 on a Duet, you have to run, you'll have to run all of your power lines for your fans and your heaters and stuff like that. Your positive lines will have to go to a 24 volt power supply because what Duet switches everything on and off with the negative pin. So that's how it adjusts your fans, and that's how it adjusts your heaters as well. So if we went 48 volt on everything, we would have to have one wire go all the way back to a 24-volt power supply, and the other one go to the board. So this way, only motors are going to the main board. Everything else is going to be running off tool boards that are statically on 24 volts. We do have. So all of this, let's go through this real quick. All of this is 3mm bent steel. It'll all be powder coated red, and this is will be a gunmetal gray on all of our components that aren't red. Only the heads are red. Then we'll have printed covers, most likely SLS nylon, over all of the electrical stuff. That'll all be covered. One nice thing about the X and the U is a 50-15 fan will fit back here. So each hot end will have their own fan shrouds, of course. But we'll be able to use very large fans. At the minimum 50-15s. Somebody in the last stream brought up, what were they, 40-28, which are like the server style fans. Where I'm looking into those. I need to order some so we can see how they fit up. I mean, I can go off schematic, but the whole thing is worrying about airflow, right? So what's not on this design are 3 metal supports that come off the bottom of this rail, and will support the cable chains. But if we look here, this piece here is all one piece. So we'll go into our subcomponents here. Where is it at? Sorry, 1 second. Sorry. I can't see where I put it. But yeah, so if we come here and we isolate this, you see, like, this one piece is all bent out of one piece of metal. So it's going to be very rigid. Like, you don't have to like bolt on a bunch of different things and just stack aluminum or steel plates on top of each other. Didn't like that. So this is all bent. It'll be all powder coated. The extrusion we're doing here, we show it in black, but we're gonna have a black and a silver option. The only reason why we want to offer that is because the goal of this printer is to not only be faster than pretty much all the other printers in this price point and in this size, but we also want to bring that quality and then at the same time beat them in price. Our closest competition for the 600 by 600 is a Modex, which with all of the accessory, so we're going IDEX out of the box, well, out of the crate, linear rail on Z out of the crate, and casters out of the crate. And if you were to get that in a Modex, it's about $7,000. So, starting September 1st, these printers will be on sale for $5,000. They are going to come in a crate, and we are offering assembled versions and kit versions. But the assembled versions, we'll go there and assemble it for you, or we'll assemble it here and we'll deliver it ourselves. But you have to be within so far from Chicago, and we haven't set that distance yet. So yeah. But yeah, here's our X and U. If anybody has any questions of what we're doing with this, I'll show you guys another component. If not, there was something else I wanted to show you guys. What was it? We'll go back to the full size. Oh, we worked on our enclosure more. That's what I wanted to show you guys. Bring this up. So, bodies, lid, door, and door. So the whole lid will pivot up and you'll have 2 front doors. All the windows will be polycarbonate. This enclosure is an add-on. One thing we do plan on doing is actually for production units having this bottom corner on each side cut out, and that is so that we can add in chamber heaters in time. Problem is these will take a lot of power. The beds themselves are 1600 watts at 120, so that's one thing we have to fit so much stuff in the electrical box. It's because we're going to have up to 3 SSRs in there at the same time. So, but yeah, this is kind of like what I wanted to show you guys on the Talos. What we'll probably dig into next time is we'll probably break down the Z-axis. I'm personally pretty proud of our Z-axis myself. Let me get rid of these doors. With this whole piece being one bench steel piece and having yokes that support everything. So we are going with 16 millimeter lead screws for Z, not ball screws, mainly because to get in that price point, we could go with really cheap ball screws that snap, which is what happens to a lot of people in this printer size, which is kind of crazy. Or they wobble like crazy. Or we can go with really high quality lead screws that don't wobble. So that's kind of what we're doing there. But yeah, if anybody has any questions or has any suggestions for not that, sorry, there we go. It's this one. If anybody has any questions for or suggestions for this printer, let us know. Next time we are going to be doing more of the Z. I'll have this top U plate kind of finalized, except for maybe some holes here. Once we get these holes back here finalized and have mounting plates for, or mounting, all the mounting set up for the electrical like panel, we'll start getting these made so that who wants to test them can test them. But yeah, we're probably gonna call it for tonight. Thanks for everybody for coming. Thank you so much for the raid. If you guys have any questions or suggestions, let us know. We're going to be, as these components are done, we're going to be posting them on GitHub. If you want to make them, feel free to make them. If you want to see something specific, let us know. Yeah. And then, we're going to have a list available for everybody. We're going to be posting in the streams moving forward about like what our goals are, what you got, then you guys can add to it, what goals you guys would like to see. And then, so that we're making a printer and designing a printer that people want to use, right? So that's what we're going to do moving forward. Yeah. And then we will be back on Thursday. At least I will be. I'm not sure if Brandon is available yet. I haven't asked him, but I'll be back Thursday. We'll probably be in the shop showing off the production X axis, X and U, because we already have this built out. It's not. Oh wait, sorry, it's not production. It's not painted yet. The one I have in my in my personal shop. So, but yeah, we'll have it wired up so you can see how fast the thing scooches, and we are testing it with full weight and everything like that. So yeah, thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you on Thursday. Y'all have a good one.